Okay, if we could have your attention, please. We are now joined by our second place finisher, Brad Keselowski, driver of the number 2 Miller Lite Ford for Team Penske. This matches his best all-star finish. He finished second in 2002. So Brad, congrats on a great finish, and talk a little bit about your race out there tonight.
Yeah, I guess a decent night, but not the great night we wanted with the Miller Lite Ford. Ending up second. Really happy for my teammate, Joey Logano. He kind of did exactly what you would expect out of an all-star race format and made a pretty incredible pass to win the race. So happy for Team Penske as a whole, but of course wish it was me in victory lane.
Okay, we'll now open it up for questions for Brad. If you have a question, please raise your hand and we will get a microphone to you. Okay, we'll start here with Jenna.
Jennifer, AP, Brad, you're kind of credited for this format, and through many of the segments, drivers were saying that they were confused, they didn't know what was going on. Did it play out the way you thought it did, and would you change anything?
I mean, there was a last lap or next to last lap pass for the lead. There were several passes for the lead. The last 4 races, there hasn't been a pass for the lead in the last 20 or 30 laps. I think our fans deserve a better format than that, and they got that today. You know, I don't know how you can get much more compelling racing than what we saw today. So they need to get unconfused and enjoy the racing.
Are there any questions from the press box? Any additional questions for Brad?
Quiet group today.
Go ahead, Jenna.
The rule changes this week, did that help the racing?
Absolutely. I thought it was certainly key to making the cars have more fall off and open up more passing opportunities. So, yeah, I think that was a pretty big positive for here. You know, I don't know what the rules are for the 600, if they're going to use this package or not. I think it'll be better if they use this one.
Okay.
Very well.
Okay, thanks,
Thank
Brad.
you. Have a good day.
night. Okay, if we could have your attention, please. We are now joined by our third place finisher, Dale Earnhardt Jr., driver of the number 88 Mountain Dew Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports. This was Dale's best all-star finish since runner-up in 2002. So, Dale, congratulations on a great finish, and just talk us through your race tonight.
Yeah, we started out right around 10th and ran there for most of the night. Just real hard to pass. The middle and the top didn't get competitive as the bottom was. So as cool as it is outside and the track temp staying low like that, that bottom's going to remain pretty quick, and so it was hard to. You saw some guys using the top or the middle in the afternoon today, but I couldn't really get it to work unless somebody was really struggling in front of me. But it's pretty good strategy by Greg. I don't even remember what he did, but somehow or another we ended up in the top 5. And I don't know how we passed all them people, but once I got toward the front, the car started obviously driving better in the cleaner air. And right before the last segment, right at the end of the second segment, I thought we had a great car. Not as good as the 42 and the 75, but I thought we had a really good car, much better car than we did the last segment. The last segment, we made a couple adjustments to try to help our car take off a little better and just go on that short run, but it didn't really handle well. So we got tight. Immediately on the first lap of the last segment, the car was pushing, so I knew we were going to struggle to be able to capitalize on our position to win the race, but we ended up finishing okay. And for our team, it's a good step in the right direction to get more competitive. A lot was made about the comments I made in the podcast on Monday. And, I just want the team to succeed and, really like the crew and Greg, and think we can do it. We did it last year. We started this year off really awesome and hit a little rough patch. But this week was a great opportunity for us to learn, and I think we did. We had about 80% of the setup on the car was new stuff, so some stuff we hadn't really ran. in a lot of different directions that are outside the box for us and what we were competitive with earlier in the year. So I hope Greg learned a lot tonight. We didn't get a lot of practice, so we had to learn as much as we could in the race, and I think we learned some stuff. So next weekend it'll be great to be able to get some practice and actually tune on the car a little bit more.
Okay, we'll now open it up for questions for Dale. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. We'll start with Bob and then go to Jenna.
Bob Pockris, ESPN, and NASCAR kind of wanted to change the format to try to increase excitement. And I mean, did you feel like increased excitement? There seemed to be a lot of confusion out there about exactly how things would work, and then with only 2 cars on all tires on that last.
Wasn't much to, yeah. Wasn't, you know, I think that the intent was really, really positive, and the ideas were great. But I think the simpler we make it, the easier it is to follow, and you just have to worry about rooting for your guy. So I was pretty confused right up until it was 13 laps to go, and then I knew, well, we're racing from here to the end, and this is all the normal rules. But everything before that was really I was out of my element. But you know, NASCAR did a good job making sure, even though all the pitting was confusing and how the lap cars were pitting with the leaders, and people weren't really where they were supposed to be. NASCAR did make sure all the lineups were correct before we went back to green. So you can't really you can't complain about that too much. It was just an unorthodox way of doing it. I don't know, and I think they ran into some scenarios tonight that they didn't really anticipate, and got caught off guard. I think the 20 obviously not pitting, however that worked out, that threw them for a loop, and everybody was confused from that moment on.
Okay, Jenna.
Jennifer, AP. Dale, what would you think if the All-Star race became a race of innovation and you guys just raced whatever you brought to the track?
Well, I don't know. We probably wouldn't pass too much because we'd all be wide open. Not passing?
No, passing.
I said we wouldn't pass too much because we would all be full throttle. I just think they ought to go back to the original formats that they started with that are simple and make the cars race better. Gimmicks and all that stuff, trying to trick up the race is going down the wrong path. The way to make the racing exciting is to make the cars exciting.
Okay, do we have any questions from the press box?
No questions.
Okay, any additional questions for Dale? Okay, over here to Jim.
Jim Mutter, motorsport.com. Along those lines, the changes that were implemented, could you tell from the driver's seat, did they have much effect in this race on the racing in general?
There was a lot of, we gained some track position somehow. All the mandatory stops during the segments, then the mandatory stops in between the segments. Somehow or another, Greg did some magic and got us into the top 5. Guys were struggling, and I don't know. It came down to the 22 and the 42. That was pretty exciting, and I don't think that had anything to do with any format. So that was just 2 guys going at it, and that's what you really want.
What about the downforce, sideforce stuff? Could you tell anything?
Oh, well, I think that taking the skew out of the housing and limiting the toe and doing things like that will certainly slow down the mid-corner speed a little bit, and there will be a little more off-throttle time. And I think that anytime we can get more off-throttle time, there'll be more opportunities to outdrive a guy into the corner, beat a guy down in the corner, or drive up to a guy's bumper in the corner and get him loose or move him out of the way, or however you need to do it. And you saw the 22, he could get right up to that 42. Man, if we were running the 14 or 15 package, that 42 could have went wherever the 22 was going and kept him about 10 car lengths behind him the whole time. He'd have never had to worry about it. So the fact that the 22 can drive up there right to him and the 42 can't do anything about it, we're going down the right direction with all that stuff. Yes, sir.
Any final questions for Dale? All All right, Dale, thanks for coming in. Enjoy your
Thank you,
Sunday.
guys.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if we could have your attention, please. We are now joined by our all-star race winning crew chief, Todd Gordon, and Team Penske Vice Chairman, Walt Czarnecki. Gentlemen, congratulations on the win tonight. If you could both just tell us a little bit about the race this evening.
I thought it was pretty cool. It's a different format with the 50-50-13, and definitely brought some different strategies forward. I thought a quick synopsis of what we thought, but I thought our long run speed was pretty good in the first section. Second section, the cautions it almost seemed like it frustrated us because they didn't let us get to where we were really good. But then the pit crew stepped up and performed in the transition to the 13-lap final segment and got us a little bit there. And then you give Joey Logano 4 tires, and at least I shot at where the front row is, and he elevates in that final and showed it again tonight.
This is a special night tonight for sure. First of all, to win this race. I know there's a lot of conversation about the format. I think it's fabulous. But having said that, this Shell Pennzoil Ford team has just been so close all season long. Joey's had about 4 or 5 second places and had a little bad luck so far this season, but has been in the thick of it since Daytona. So to get this breakout moment, I think really is significant for the way the team is going to perform for the remainder of the season, particularly beginning next week. But hats off to Todd and to that crew for the strategy and the way they executed. And don't want to forget the teammate, Brad Keselowski. Brad had a great Miller Lite Ford here tonight. So to finish 1-2 is a special night for Team Penske and for our partners at Ford. Thank you.
Okay, we'll now open it up for questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. Okay, we'll start over here with Nate.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Todd, the 48 said their plan all along was to play for 12 after the second segment. Did you guys give any thought to that? And if you decided against it, why did it not make sense?
We did. I mean, obviously this race, since the rules came out, there's been a lot of strategy thoughts put into it. We talked about, the fact that if there's 20 cars in the lead lap and you bail back to 11th or 12th, that starting on the front row with 15-lap-old tires and having 4 rows of cars that separate you from tires, I think in 13 laps you're probably pretty safe. I really felt like, as we look through it, that there might be an accident or there'd be cars laps down, and that as that number of cars that stayed there diminished, we love to play offense. Joey's awesome on offense, and if you watch us through the year, we at 2-tire racetracks, we take 4 tires a lot of times just because that lets him be aggressive with it. And he's an aggressive driver, so I saw an opportunity that you could win the race that way, but the way that suits our style was to race forward, and we worked our way on the 50-50 fence through the week, and by the time we got to today, it was let's get 4 tires and let's go race forward, and that's what we chased to today.
Was there no margin for error having 8 cars behind you to have that?
For the guy that was staying on tires, I think there's a lot of things that play into that, and I got asked that by a couple of MRN guys before the race, but I think it's got to be a fluid decision because you don't know how many cautions we're going to have after the 85. You could pit it at 85, put 4 on, and then have a caution that eats up 8 or 9 laps of what's left. And now the guy that's starting up front's only got 5 or 6 laps on his tires. 5 or 6 laps, I'll take that versus stickers with 2 rows. But you don't know what that's going to be. But as the race kind of worked on, you saw that the lap down cars were there. So I felt like if you started 5th or 6th on 4 versus old tires, you're probably in a good position. If you've got to start 9th or 10th, it's probably a harder road to hoe.
Okay, we're now joined by the winner of this year's Sprint All-Star Race, Joey Logano, driver of the number 22 Shell Pennzoil Ford for Team Penske. Joey, congratulations. Just talk us through your race tonight.
Awesome race. I thought it went great. What a great car. It says a lot about our race team to unload today with a completely new package, have 10 minutes of practice, and unload and say, car's pretty good. Don't really have much to say. It's a couple little adjustments. We really only made one change on our car. It's only about the only amount of time we had in practice is to make one change. And same for everybody. But overall, I felt like our car was competitive. We started the race and was able to move forward. We got lucky and not lucky at the same time when that caution came out. We lost 3 or 4 spots, but we didn't get caught by not pitting, when that caution came out and having to pit under green and all that stuff. So, I thought our car was fast the whole time. We just didn't really show the speed in our car until the end. And it was definitely a long run car as well, but Todd made some good adjustments to help it fire off a little bit there at the end and be able to have a good restart finally. I had a few bad ones. To have one good one there towards the end helped, and be able to race Larson was a lot of fun. I knew what I was up against after watching the showdown. I knew we were going to race really hard. It's for $1 million, and was able to around lap 6 move up the racetrack and be able to find some speed. Obviously Kyle saw that. He moved up, and then I knew I was going to have to make the bottom work somehow. And once I had position on him going into the corner, I had to make sure I kept him on the quarter panel and not to the door. And so I knew he was going to drive in to try to suck me around from the outside, and I knew I had to drive in to make sure he didn't do that. And just good hard racing there at the end. It was a lot of fun. He's a heck of a racer. He's going to win a lot of races, that's for sure. And it's fun to race against. It's fun to see the youth in the sport. For me, starting 8 years ago now, to see guys that are close to my age now, and I get to race them for wins is a lot of fun.
Okay, if you have a question, please raise your hand, and we will get a microphone to you. Are there any questions from the press box?
No questions.
You guys are ready to go home today, huh?
Okay, we'll take our first question over here from Bob, and then go over to Tucker.
Bob Pockris, ESPN. Joey, did you think that 4 tires that you were fine, especially with only 2 guys with old tires up in front of you? And kind of what did you think of the format in general? Were you ever confused during the 113 laps?
There's the point I came over the radio. I said, I don't know what's going on. I don't really want to know what's going on. Just let me drive the car and you call the race, because I was confused. All I know is if there's a car in front of me, I probably should pass him. And that's kind of where my head was. It doesn't have to be as complicated as you think it is. It's complicated for this man, not so much for me. Sometimes a simple life's a little easier inside the race car. I have my hands full with enough things. So I was able to focus in on my job. Todd was able to focus in on his job. But obviously the whole falling back and trying to position yourself to the front didn't really play, because there's only 2-3 cars that were. I think a lot of cars got trapped on pit stops when the caution came out, and they got trapped down a lap. So it didn't really play out like a lot of us thought it would. When there's only 3 cars on old tires in front of you. So it was kind of, we got through them in the first corner, and then it was like, all right, it's Larson and I for this thing. So I felt confident that we had a very good shot at racing for the win when we were restarting there at the end.
Okay, Tucker.
Tucker White, SpeedwayMedia.com. This is for both you and Todd. After 113 laps, what impact would you say the aero changes had on your car tonight and on the race?
I don't know that I would say it's significant. I thought the cars Joey can ask it for how they drive. From a setup standpoint, I thought it was something we could adapt to in 10 minutes or 20 minutes of practice that we had. But I think we're all fairly smart as to what's going on. It was a good loss. It was a kind of an even loss for aerodynamic forces. So you didn't have to make a huge balance shift in the car for it. So it was something. I think if guys had decent packages, they at least had a foundation to build off of. I can't speak for how they drive.
Yeah, I'd say I thought the racing was significantly better than last year. As a racer out there, I remember this race last year, and I get trapped because all you can do is run the bottom. That was last year, on the bottom, and it's really hard to pass someone because you can't get clean air. It was a lot of fun as a driver tonight to be able to move up the racetrack and find speed. That's something here at Charlotte at night is very rare. You don't see that at night here at Charlotte very often. So I think obviously taking the downforce off these cars, being able to move to the right side of a car and be able to continue forward progress was really nice. It was really fun to be a part of that. I thought it promoted a lot of side-by-side racing, a lot of passing. It seemed like it took it took 6-7 laps for the second lane to kind of come in after the tires would wear a little bit, but tires would definitely wear out. That's for sure. There's definitely a lot of fall off, it felt like, from inside the car, and that's what we want to see. That's the reason for doing all this, is to promote better racing, promote more tire fall off. We saw that tonight. We saw a lot of side-by-side racing. We saw a lot of fall off, and what the strategy. Obviously, there's so much strategy. A lot of us didn't know what was going on because there's so much strategy going on in this race, but that's what it promoted. It promoted a lot of racing, hard racing, and I thought it was great.
Any final questions? Okay, gentlemen, thank you for your time. Congratulations.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.